It is an absolutely glorious morning here at one of North America's most beautiful racing venues, Virginia International Raceway. And what a day we have for you. Very busy, qualifying all morning. We'll be bringing you every category that is running here this weekend, live qualifying here on our global web stream. Then after the lunch break, we will be with you for 5 races throughout the afternoon. We start this day off with TC America qualifying in the touring car category. The cars are on the grid, ready to set out for their qualifying runs. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish. Ryan Marine down in the pit lane, covering all the action for us here. And Cal, as you take a look here, we've had a radical session that has run this morning. We had a lot of rain yesterday. That grass is slick, but boy, there's a reason this place is green and beautiful here. It's not only a stunning facility, it's challenging.
It's magic, Greg. It's great to be back here at VIR. Just over 3¼ miles in length. That gives you a little bit of everything. Top speed is important here. You got this long front straightaway, high speed S's, which some of the cars will tackle flat out, and then the back straightaway. But there's a lot of key corners here as well. You got 17 of them to negotiate around, and brake zones are important. It always provides great racing, but this qualifying session is super important. Perfect conditions here. Be really great to get these cars out there on what should be a perfect day for racing.
Yeah, very cool. So the engines love it for power. The aerodynamic devices love it for downforce as the air is a little bit more dense. It is a fabulous day here. It is Touring Car America, Touring Car qualifying at VIR, presented by Henry Repeating Arms. Here is a look at the track, Cal. And as you can see, 5.2 kilometers, about 3.3 miles in length. And each sector has its unique challenges.
It does. That brake zone down into turn 1 is kind of a double apex corner. You kind of wash out wide, but watch the drop off there. The stewards were warning the drivers in the meetings this weekend, do not drop wheels there. There's about a 3-inch drop off there, so be careful there. Then it tightens up through that technical section through 3 and 4, and then you come through the snake and up through those high-speed S's and the oak tree turn 12. Getting traction out of that one is key for speed down the back straightaway.
I'm not sure there's a more spectacular piece of racetrack in North America than the uphill S's here. It is so fast and literally climbing. You're up on the curbs, and then although the beautiful oak tree, after which the oak tree corner is named, was felled in a storm a few years ago, that corner remains one of the most crucial, as you said, getting onto that long straight. Touring cars are out onto the track, and the pole time last year was set by Johann Schwartz. Fastest time last year was a 2-minute 1.944. In the first session yesterday, Cal, he turned a 2:02 flat, so they're right on the cusp already of being quicker than last year's qualifying times. The second session yesterday for virtually every category was a washout, heavy rain. So my concern, or my thought here this morning, is they haven't had a chance to get out on this track before qualifying. All that rain. How green is this track?
Well, it's always a bit of a guesstimate in terms of what you do with your tire pressures and your setup when the racetrack has evolved a little bit over the course of the weekend. But certainly a lot of the teams are returning. They'll have a good notebook to work from. And Johann Schwartz, coming off a good start to his championship campaign at Circuit of the Americas, won the initial round, had some fuel pump issues which are now rectified for the weekend. So he's feeling pretty confident. He said the car felt really good here yesterday morning.
Yeah, interesting how everything flowed at the opening 2 rounds of Circuit of the Americas. Johann won the first one, as you pointed out, and then ended up third in the second one. Jeff Ricca in the Genesis Coupe, third in the first one, won the second one. They come in here dead even in the points, and only 4 points behind them is Toby Grahovic, who, of course, is a former champion in this category. So lots to be looking at here, and this is the number 55. That's Mosey Uretsky, I believe, and he, of course, steps up from the TCA class last year, and was really showing some speed near the end of last season. Be interesting to see where he ends up. He was 7th in that practice session yesterday morning. But I think early on here, all eyes have got to be on Schwartz, Grahovic, and Steve Strymer has moved over to Rooster Hall Racing into the BMW this year. He had a win here last year. He loves this place.
He does, and tackling it with a different race car, so it'll be a different proposition for him this year. But there's nothing like that confidence that's gained from a victory at a particular circuit. So watch for him this weekend.
To look at some of these absolutely exceptional corners around this great facility.
This is that drop off right there, as you see the dirt on the outside. Even though with the rain yesterday, right there, it looks like it's pretty dry, not a lot of puddling there, so that could be good news if people do have a slight off here during the course of action today.
Well, that's the other part of it. With all the rain, track is dry, track is going to be fast here, we think. but that grass is still a bit damp. You get into it, it tends to go downhill, and at the bottom, it's a long ways away, but at the bottom, there's generally something you can get into. This place, precision is hugely critical here, isn't it?
It gets your attention, I mean, and but by the same token, I read a great quote by Mario Andretti this week. He said, if it feels comfortable, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
And I think that's really the key up through the S's. It's a wonderful, challenging piece of racetrack. This ribbon right here that they're now attacking, still not full bore here, but you just hop those curbs and float the car through there.
And then
Pirelli
this turn,
P0 should just be starting to get up to temp and pressure.
And
turn 2 or 3 laps on this relatively cool start to the day.
right. In turn 10, where you go through that, it kind of falls away a little bit down into it after that fast set of S's. Just so many of these challenging and wonderful corners here. Here's a look. You can see Grahovic trying to not give a little help to Johann Schwartz, and finally just moves out of the way. And Johann says, all right, you want me to get up in front? I'll give it a go here. But these are certainly going to be 2 of the guys I would think that will be vying for that front row.
Yeah, and I think before you start a session, you obviously have to set the tire pressures, and some drivers like to have a relatively high starting pressure. That means the energy in the tire is going to come in a little bit quicker. So your peak lap will be maybe lap 3 or 4. Other drivers like to warm up a little bit in the session, allow the tire pressure to gradually come up, so they'll be looking to peak a little bit later in the session. But the reality is you got to be on a clear lap when you're getting that peak lap, whichever you've set the target for.
And as great as these Pirelli P0s are in terms of being able to race them, any tire has that peak where you get that 1 or 2 laps where they're really magic. If you're in traffic at that point, that's not where you want to be, obviously. And I think we're getting into that window now. Johann Schwartz goes to the top at a 2:02.9 here. And again, that's about a second off of last year's pole time. And he's in that Rooster Hall Racing. You see the big
red flag?
It is. The West Virginia University's support on the side of that car, but red flag is out.
One thing we did see was from that last camera shot was that Radical was still up on a hook, kind of tucked out of the way, one would assume, in terms of a safety zone. So something is not quite right out there. We'll have to wait for the information. But this puts even more. Oh, here we see the problem, the 23 car.
Oh, boy. That's a significant off. Isn't exactly what we were talking about. It's Joseph Federal in the Tech Sport Racing Nissan 370Z.
That's just the wet grass.
Yep.
Not sure if that's coming down into the roller coaster, maybe? Hard to say.
Quick response here, but these are short sessions, and you know that kind of gets back to what you were talking about. Do you give that, you know, your pressure's low and give yourself time to come in? You do that, you run the risk of this exact thing happening. If you don't have a flyer in early, you could be in trouble.
You're rolling the dice, and it's a pretty hectic schedule, so I'm sure it'll be tough to extend some of these sessions to give them their full quota of time.
Well, and right now, for instance, one of the drivers who was tied for the point lead with Johann Schwartz, Jeff Rica, back in 13th. At the time of this red flag, so
he'd just gone purple, meaning fastest in sector 2. So unable to complete that lap and get the time.
Well, that Bossmann Nissan, they're going to try and get that removed, obviously, as fast as possible and get going again. But as you pointed out, these sessions are very short, 15 minutes only. The red flag is out. And they said if they can, they will try and stop the clock from running. And it looks like they have done that. There's Mosieretsky as he makes his way into the pits as the red flag came out.
He's currently second quick, but almost just over 3 seconds slower than Schwartz. But none of this is really truly relative to their potential performance.
And assuming they can get Federal's car moved quick enough and get these guys back out on track, boy, talk about pressure. You better get your out lap and you better be ready to go.
Looks like the driver's okay.
That's the best news.
Not the start he was looking forward to the weekend, obviously. You have to wait and see how much damage is there and getting that thing sorted out for this afternoon's race and doubleheader weekend, of course. More action tomorrow.
Yeah, third in the points for Joseph coming in, so this is going to back him up just a little bit.
Nice top 5s coming from Circuit of the Americas, so it was a nice solid start to his season campaign.
Yeah, Grahovic right now is third. And there's Johann Schwartz. Looks like they are starting to queue up by pit out, getting ready to get back in after this one. And Johann's going to duck into his pit stall. And, you know, you may have worked here in these first few minutes of this session to get that clear piece of racetrack to be able to go. Now you're going to be stacked up again. Oh, boy, and they brought out a tire.
It's going to be a mad dash if we release these cars here.
Apparently they feel that they need to replace some tire bundles. Here's a look at Toby Grahovic. The first year of the BMW M235 IR, which is just a fabulous turnkey racer, and now the more current version, the 240 from BMW. I mean, it really sort of rejuvenated the touring car class at one point. I think one of the races, they had something on the order of 15 of them running. It was a record for those cars, but it has really brought this into the touring car class back. And Toby, of course, champion in that first year. Let's get down to Ryan with an update.
Yeah, let's check in with Laura Tallman, of course, from Reardon Racing. A bit of a disjointed start to this session, but how about the weekend so far? We've dealt with some different weather conditions and things like that. How have you guys dealt with the various curveballs that have been thrown your way?
Well, it's been a little busy. We were hoping to get some testing in yesterday because of some damage. Parts needed to be replaced on the 33 car. So it never ran yesterday. This is a first time out this event. So we have a few questions to be answered yet.
I'd imagine so. So what is the level of apprehension then? I'm sure you have confidence that everything is correct, but you still have to actually see it in action.
Right, you never know. So I am confident. The guys did a good job with it. Paul is driving really well, and he does love this track. So,
given the challenges, what are your goals for the weekend?
Well, to win some races. There are plenty of challenges, a few relating, of course, to BOP. You know, that's the constant story, and this is an incredible track, but it's tricky. So I think finishing the race is a #1 priority for all our drivers.
Thank you very much. We'll let you get back up on the box.
Thank you.
Well, talks about Paul Terry, obviously, was very quick here last year. But also had an incident here last year that was pretty significant. And so the fact that he says he still loves this track, that is good news. And the fact they missed that entire day of running yesterday, and now he sits back in 14th and really wasn't able to get out and give much of a lap. They are really going to be chasing things this whole weekend.
Yeah, because by not running yesterday, you want to get a good qualifying time in, but you want to get a read on the car as well. So sitting in pit lane, you're certainly not doing that.
Well, and you can see substantial damage. That tire barrier, obviously, doing its job could have been far worse, but still, that right rear corner is in pretty tough shape.
Yeah, I think the key is going to be the chassis damage, what everything bolts onto. Rear suspension looks to be okay, but tough to tell when it's up on the hook like this.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, it is rolling fairly free. Sometimes
the key is just, you know, that rear panel that holds the rear wing on and stuff like that is getting all that back in order. Not the easiest thing to do unless you've got a body shop close at hand here.
The good news is that the clock has still stopped. Obviously, it's going to put the pressure on to get through the rest of the day fairly clean. Now it's just a matter of getting that car off in a safe spot so we can get back to some green flag qualifying here. And the urgency is going to come through the roof. A late addition to the field here, sitting in the 5th spot right now. The number 28 of Marko Radicic did a very late deal with Classic BMW for him to come out and run this weekend in his PrecisionDrivingTech.com Classic.
He felt he needed a bit more track time.
Yeah, because apparently
he's only got 4 other races to do.
Yeah, that just wasn't enough for him. He's running GT4 Sprint and Sprint X, and I have heard rumors as well that it's this touring car deal is not just for this race, but he's working on a program of doing maybe the rest of the year with them. So.
I heard a second-hand story about Marko where he did a 24-hour kart race with he and one other guy, and Marko did about 17 or 18 hours himself, and he anticipates doing the whole thing himself next year. So why, I don't know. So.
Yeah, they're fun, but
yeah,
that sounds like taking it past the point here. Look here at the numbers 52 of Tom Capizzi, the Autotechnic BMW. And Tom's first season of racing in the Touring Car America Championship.
This is going to be a thrash here.
Yeah,
Still 10 minutes on the board, though, so it looks like, unless we see a quick adjustment, I think the teams and the drivers will be keying off that number that's left. But they're not going to be hanging around. They're going to be looking for a good, clear lap. But I had a little bit of a read on the race car in those couple of laps we got before the red, but only 3 cars actually set a lap time. The red came out, which stops the clock essentially in terms of timing you. So even if you're about to hit the stripe, as soon as that red flag comes out, that will eliminate the potential of laying down a lap. So it's Schwartz from Uretsky from Grahovic, and everyone else is yet to set a lap time.
Nice to have running the full season this year Richard Zulman as a teammate to Johann Schwartz in the number 84 entry. Quite a character Richard is, and has picked up on this very, very quickly. Having come from doing a fair amount of club racing.
Beautiful images. The sun bursting through
really
the trees here in the early hours of the day.
It's the 81 of Strymer. Again, had a win here last year. Different team, different manufacturer, but has always gone very quickly here.
Car was really putting the power down well coming out of Oak Tree. You could just hear it just loading and going.
And up into this turn here into 14-14A, they call it the roller coaster, and it is that, isn't it? It just, right here, you just start falling down the side of the hill. It's fabulous.
It's, you can really attack it, but you just got to have the car placed in the right spot. If you get a little bit out of rhythm through there, it will ultimately bite you as you come onto that front straightaway. Again, you talk about the camber of the runoff area there. If you drop a wheel coming through Hogpen, it will get your attention.
Hogpen at last final corner, 17. And so it is go time. 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes thereabouts left in this session. And Strymer has clear track. This is the golden opportunity. Here he turns into that very tricky turn 1.
Yeah, up and on the curb, then just floats it out. Great rhythm section right here. These are some key corners. There's a little bit of runoff road that the guys will use there up and over the curb. That's okay in terms of out of bounds with track limits. Cannot be dropping wheels. That's basically the line in the sand, literally, from Peter Roberts, the driver steward.
This is now the first section of S's.
The snake.
Yes, indeed. Up and under the bridge here, and now into the climbing S's. And if your car is right, this is an absolute joy, isn't it?
It's about as good as it's going to feel. Fresh set of Pirelli P0s. Scuffed them in on those early formative laps, and time to lay one down.
Boy, he used every bit of road there through turn 10. Great stuff. Late apex here. Got that curve pretty good. May have delayed him getting to the throttle, Cal.
Did, but it's just traction is really strong there. Schwartz has just laid down the fastest first sector of the day at a 42.9, which is about 0.8 faster than Strymer did. So that's got potential for a good one.
Johan loves this place. Former Touring Car B champion.
He's probably just trying to get a bank a lap in here, put a nice clean one together, then start to attack a little bit more.
And here we go. Find out what the number 81 of Strymer is able to do. Previous best of 2:11 flat. Should be well quicker than that.
Yeah, I'd imagine he'll jump up in the top 2, I would think. I'm not sure he's going to be quicker than Schwartz's initial. There he is. Second, 2:03.8. Easily gets dropped by Zulman up to second.
Nice lap by Richard.
Yeah.
And here we go. See what Schwartz is able to do again. A 2:02.9 was his previous best that had him on the provisional pole. But as you said, that first sector looked to be absolutely stonking quick.
It was a little bit quicker, but not a lot. Oh, yes, he does. Excuse me. 2:01.2.
2:01.29. So. No, that's 7/10 faster than last year's pole time.
Up to second, but almost 2 seconds off of Johann's time. So Johann definitely on the boil right now.
And keeping an eye here on the 81 of Strymer.
Everyone's setting personal bests here as
Ricca, nice lap, Cal. He needed that.
he did. So the top 3 in the championship are top 3 on the board right now early in the session.
Interesting, Ricca talking about this car. He said it's got its pluses. It's one of the lighter cars in the field, which means it runs a little less horsepower than some of the other cars. But he said it's fairly slippery, so we can deal with it. And he said through the high-speed stuff, it's great, but it's front drive and it's long wheelbase. And he said through the tricky, tight stuff, and especially on Oak Tree, he said you have to be so patient getting the power down there.
Yeah. He's just a really nice young man and does a great job. And he knows the strengths and weaknesses, and you just got to drive within those, otherwise you're just going to burn off those tires.
He's put up some great runs here. They got DBA USA brake rotors, extra support here this weekend. He said they are the same rotors any Genesis coupe owner can purchase and put on the cars. And he said it's one of the great things about how SRO has set up the Touring Car America categories. He said you're allowed to run lots of aftermarket parts that you can purchase for your street car. And he said it gives an opportunity to showcase that Uretsky has pulled off. So that's not good news. You almost wonder if, well, they had that long red. It doesn't make any sense that he'd be out of fuel. Oh, there it is. Maybe just some electronic
reset,
glitch,
possibly. Ooh, big one.
That's Ricca.
Wow.
Yes, it was. Big damage to the back end of that Genesis. And red flag comes out immediately as Grahovic had snuck one through to displace Ricca at a 2-minute 2.38. Still well shy of Schwartz. See if we can see what happens here, Cal.
Oh, it just drops a wheel there. Through the roller coaster. Big one. Big impact. Hit it pretty square on, so I'm not sure it got into the suspension, but
yeah.
Again, a lot of work to get organized for this afternoon. I'll be surprised if they let these guys go again with just under 3 minutes to go.
Yeah. There's just this so jammed this morning. The schedule's so busy. Big shout out to those corner workers. You notice how calmly that guy, when that car slammed into the tires, and he just reached for his radio and reported the incident, put the yellow out. And the corner marshals here and all the volunteers, big thank you to everybody at beautiful Virginia International Raceway. All part of this great weekend of racing for the Blancpain GT World Challenge America at Virginia International Raceway, presented by Henry Repeating Arms, featuring right now the Touring Car America TC class, Touring Car qualifying, but under its second red, and I would suspect, yep, you can see checkered flag now shows.
Yeah.
Session has been ended, so Johann Schwartz, second straight year, second straight pole.
Yep. See the cars heading back to pit lanes. The grid is set, subject to post-qualifying tech inspection.
All right, get a report that Ricca out of the car and is okay. The question is going to be, how deep did that hit get into the chassis, and will it be repairable? Because just a few hours down the road, Cal, we're racing.
Yeah, and he may lose that fast lap by causing this red flag. So Zulman had put in a nice lap to move up into the top 4, and that may get promoted to 3rd by the time we get through with the steward's decisions.
How about Paul Terry with no track time yesterday, coming out in a solid top 6, Cal?
Yeah, that's good news for that group. Laura Tolman alluded to the fact it was not the best of days yesterday, with some parts getting here late, and obviously a wet session late in the day.
And Chandra Soma running for the Tech Sport Racing team in their Nissan, young 15-year-old, very little experience in car racing, has done karting obviously, and manages in his first ever qualifying session in a car, 10th. So
nice job.
Yeah, not too bad at all. So, as you pointed out, provisionally, it would be Schwartz on pole, Grahovic, as we talked about at the top. We figured they'd be the two favorites for the front row, and that's how it looks. Grahovic in the 26 classic BMW M240 IR. Then Ricca, and again, as you pointed out, that fast lap might not hold, which could promote Zulman up into 3rd. and possibly Strymer in the number 81 BMW from Rooster Hall up into 4th. But Ricka, nonetheless, a good lap. Then Terry. 7th is Chandler Hull in the Copart Bimmer World entry. And the never quite busy enough Marko Radicic in the number 28 Classic BMW, sitting in 8th. 9th, the 82 of Cameron Evans. He's just a great story generally. His dad was a legendary pit reporter and announcer in motorsports, huge in the drag racing circuit, but also did a lot with sports car racing. And great to have Cameron here. And then rounding out the top 10, as we said, Chandra Soma. And there you can see provisionally the rest of the field. Again, Uretsky, he looked like he had a fairly quick car, but had some sort of electrical issue, it seemed like. And then Nimkov and Federal obviously off on that first lap, neither of them recording a time, and Tom Capizzi right there in the 11th spot. So that is going to set the field. This first race for them is coming up first thing after the lunch break here. So everybody that had a smooth qualifying session, they're happy with that. The ones that have some work to do, it's going to be a busy time for the crews.
Yeah, and when you look at the margins, certainly Johan has over a second on the field right now, but I think that gap would have been reduced dramatically if we'd got a full session in. As we alluded to, a lot of the teams will, just from a driver's perspective, take it a little bit easier early in the session, maybe have slightly lower starting pressures and be looking for the middle part of the run to find the sweet spot. But Johan was up on the wheel early and laid down a great lap, good enough for pole.
He's something he's become pretty adept at. He just seems he can quickly find speed as they are completing the cleanup for the number 78 entry of Ricka.
Most of his advantage was in that first sector, Greg, which is that technical section that takes you from the front straightaway start-finish line, finishing off the high-speed section, but then that really technical section through the horseshoe and up through 3 and 4.
And speaking of our provisional pole qualifier, Ryan has chased him down.
Johann Schwartz, the pole sitter by a pretty large margin. Where did that lap come from for you today?
Well, I think it came as a combination of realizing that if a red flag comes out, you got to try to push hard from the beginning. I think we had a little more left in the car, but unfortunately there was another red flag. I hate to see Jeff Ricka in the fence. I hope he gets it fixed. I didn't see how bad it was, but I always enjoy racing Jeff. But, you know, the team, I mean, you know, I'm just the tip of the iceberg here. I go out and try to do the best that I can with what they give me, and they give me such a great car. So I think we have it dialed in for the race, too.
How important around this particular racetrack is starting up front?
Oh, it's always important. Track position is everything, right? So you can kind of control the race. I enjoy doing that. I have no problem leading. So I think, you know, if you got to work your way through traffic, that's going to cost you time, especially if it stays green. And so it's always good to be up front. I love to be up front, and I love to show the West Virginia colors up front.
Congratulations on the pole and good luck in the race.
I appreciate that. Thanks again for everything SRO is doing. Thank you.
But I'll tell you, that West Virginia University partnership that they have on that, that car has appeared at West Virginia University college football games on display. Very involved with the engineering department there. It's a great program. Embedded in that team are young engineering students, SAE students. Boy, that's pretty substantial, Cal, on the back of that
Yeah, it's
Genesis.
a good lick.
Yeah.
Looks like that right rear may have got tweaked as well.
Yeah,
that's not a big team, so
no.
Jeff does the majority of the work himself, so it'll be a bit of a thrash. You hate to see that for one of our championship contenders to have problems.
And here's a look. That is the legendary oak tree turn up in the background. It used to be a huge oak tree just inside of the apex there. It was famous and unfortunately felled in a big storm a few years ago, but that corner remains one of the most important and popular. Off to the left, the S's in turn 10. It is one gorgeous morning here. Next up is going to be a very busy session for a number of cars because it is the Pirelli GT4 America qualifying session. And here's the thing, we've got both the sprint category and the Sprint X category are going to be running here, and we do have some teams, drivers that are going to be competing in both. So there's going to be a number of cars that will go out in the sprint qualifying, and then when the rest of that field heads back to their paddock, a few of them are going to come back into the pits and reset and get ready for Sprint X qualifying. Let's talk quickly here, because we're going to be so rushed when we get to the Sprint X part of the qualifying session, Cal. Changed this year from previous iterations running Sprint X in terms of how you get the grid established for the second race of the weekend, changes how qualifying unfolds.
Yeah, because before it was basically from fast laps, and now you actually have an individual qualifying session. Your lower graded driver should be in the first qualifying segment, and they will start race 1, and then your faster or more experienced drivers should be doing the second qualifying. They will start race 2, and obviously there's a mid-race driver change and mandatory pit stop. 60-minute races as we get into the racing action later today, and in the GT4 class, it's between the 25 and 35-minute mark of the race is how it's has to play out.
See that bright orange Mercedes? It's one of the cars that will be doing double duty, or at least one of the teams that may have 2 different cars. In the second session yesterday, when it was pretty much a washout, very few cars went out. Matt Fosnot was fastest in both of the Sprint and Sprint X sessions in those wet conditions. Very different now. Here's a look at Jared Andretti's Andretti Autosport McLaren. You can see Endurance and Window World. Good support on that car. This year, after running TCR last year for a different team, it's a full Andretti Autosport program. And he said, I've got people that I know around me, and they just keep giving me a good car. And that comfort level has been, I think, really important for him, hasn't it?
It is, and he's done a tremendous job. I mean, he's pretty raw in terms of his experience with road racing, but he's getting to grips with it very quickly. He's had some really impressive results for all of his partners early in this championship season. His father, John, is there. I saw him yesterday polishing toolboxes, and he just likes everything to be just so. And a bit of a thrash last night for some of the McLaren runners, because they had a bit of a BOP change yesterday that was firmly established last night. Going to be running with a little lighter weight, lower ride height, and an ECU change as well. So a little bit of work for those teams, but I'm sure they'll take it if it's going to make the cars a little bit quicker here today for qualifying.
Quick look there at Ian James and the number 50 Panos Racing Avezzano GT. And he is certainly somebody to keep an eye on here. Second in the points by a whopping 2 after the opening 3 rounds of the championship. Had a great win at the first round at COTA, then struggled in the second round, rebounded at Long Beach with a solid second place finish. But Spencer Pompelli in the number 66 Racers Group entry, the Adobe Road Winery and the Racing Wine Selection. Porsche came in the new 718, fastest in the morning session yesterday at a 155.048. And Spencer is the points leader with a second place in the opening round at St. Pete, then a 4th in the second round, but then a big win from pole at Long Beach. And it's interesting here, we're looking at teams for the sprint category, Cal, opening 3 rounds of the championship, street courses, right. Concrete line, and now to someplace that is about as wide open as it gets. However, we've talked about it, a place that almost demands street-level precision.
This isn't COTA.
Yeah, very
you
true.
Drop a wheel here, you're typically in trouble, as we've seen already a couple of times in that touring car qualifying session. So, yes, just different demands, different challenges. You don't have the intimidation factor of the concrete walls, but the edges of the racetrack can certainly bite you and hurt you equally.
And a couple of Robinson Racing 74 Ranch Camaro GT4s in the field. 74 is Gar Robinson, who has been very impressive in the opening few rounds of the championship this year. 3rd in the points, had a great second place in the second round at St. Pete. His teammate Shane Lewis had to remind Shane that he had the pole here last year in the GT4 Sprint X, different manufacturer. And he went, oh yeah, I did, didn't I? And I think this is a place that they like. They ran a different manufacturer last year. It'd be interesting to see how things shake out for them here. But Gar was 4th, Shane was 5th in that morning practice session, and not far off the fast time.
I don't know what to make of that comment from Shane when he said, no, I didn't. And he's either so old, he's getting forgetful, or he's had so many poles in his career that they don't really matter.
I'm sure he'd prefer to go with the second version of that. Ian James was 6th in the practice session yesterday. We saw a quick shot of the black 71, the Marco Polo Motorsports KTM X crossbow of Nikolai Elganian. And that car, he'd had a couple of incidents in the 2 street course races. Brand new, the newest version of that crossbow. They've done a little bit of testing with it. He said, we're excited to really see what it can do. And a solid 7th place run in that. Michael Cooper, of course, a 3-time champion in Pirelli World Challenge competition, now SRO Motorsports America in the Black Dog Speed Shop. Huge change for that team this year, if you haven't watched previously, moving from the Chevrolet Camaro GT4 to the McLaren. And he has to be, after that run he had at Long Beach in that opening lap where he went from something like 9th to 3rd, was ridiculous. With that latest change in the balance of performance, losing weight on that car, he has to be licking his chops here.
Yeah, I think they're looking forward to, even though he had that brilliant podium at Long Beach, I think that was all about Michael on cold tires, taking some risks, taking some chances, and getting that track position. They're still not happy with the pace of that car compared to the rest of the field, so we'll have to wait and see this morning in this qualifying session to see how that stacks up with those changes overnight.
Qualifying has officially begun for the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint class at Virginia International Raceway, presented by Henry Repeating Arms. And everybody, I'm sure, aware of what happened in that touring car session, saw the red flags, and that delivered a message there. The number 210, that's one of the AM cars, young Mike Dinan for Flying Lizard Motorsports. Right behind him, Alan Brynjolfsson in the Park Place Motorsports Volt Lighting Porsche, the 718 Cayman. And he was 3rd overall in that morning session as an AM driver. And I tell you, for somebody who started racing rather late, he's picked it up. He's got a great coach, too.
He does, in Trent Hinman, and they won here last year in Sprint X competition, driving admittedly a different car. So we talked about Strymer in the touring car class having confidence in winning here. Alan has the same thing, admittedly, in a Mustang last year, now driving this new Porsche Cayman. Great group behind him, led by Mike Johnson on the pit box, making the calls. Park Place Motorsports is a really solid team.
Yes, they are. And Alan right now leads the AM category in terms of the points by 5 over Preston Calvert, who is not running the sprint race here. So essentially second in those AM points is the 22 of Marko Radisek. And the number 22, the black BMW PrecisionDrivingTech.com machine.
Well, he's already warmed up, so.
He got a few laps in the touring car. He's got, which is going to help, I would think, early on. He's got track knowledge. He knows a little bit about track conditions, which just seem to be pretty quick.
He said it's a very different machine now. Driving the touring car just doesn't give him the grip and what he's used to with this platform. So part of the learning curve. Look, like Alan has either got technical, no, I think he's just backing off here to create a little bit of a gap. He was up behind the other competitor. And that's what we talk about, Greg, as we see a car off early, Fastnart.
Yep, Amarillo Racing.
Quick man
Fuji.
Yesterday.
Mercedes AMG GT4.
It's down in turn 1.
That was that drop off you talked about. You could see it on the backside of that curb right there. I mean, it's 3-4 inches. Pretty. He just smart move there. I think you realized he was going to go off and just drove straight off so that
he's just showing off.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the danger. You drop a tire and try and save it, you can ding up the inside edge of the rim, cut the sidewall. That's why I said I think he realized it was a little too hot, just straighten the wheel. Better to just drive off and then deal with it. Now, Brynjolfsson has built that gap, so the next lap, he's got a little bit of room. See what he's able to do. Loves this track.
He is building enough of a gap when you're antsy and you want to get going. You think, oh, I'm going to settle back here. And it seems like an eternity. And you basically just waited a couple of seconds and you're back on the attack. But right now he has some clear air ahead of him, clear road. He just needs to have this session stay green and now try and hit his marks and lay one down. He has a tendency to overdrive, and he just says, that's the way I like to drive. I enjoy doing that. So he gives the feedback to Trent Hinman, his coach, and Mike Johnson. They said, yeah, but just got to be patient. Let that car settle underneath you and don't keep attacking.
Just as a point of reference, Shane Lewis's pole last year in the Sprint X. Sprint did not run here last year, and the Sprint X was a 1:53.396. Fastest time by Pompelli in the morning session yesterday was a 55 flat. So, but again, conditions here look to be really strong. Shane Lewis to the top at a 1:54.982. First of the really quick laps, fastest lap we've seen this weekend in the GT4, Pirelli GT4 Sprint category here. But let's see, where did Brynjolfsson slot through?
Teammate is right behind him, so that lap by Brynjolfsson was not a quick one, obviously, as he established that gap, and this should be a good lap for him.
And there is the 74, Gar Robinson. teammate to Lewis. Love working that curb.
Oh yeah, you just float up through there. So much fun for these drivers. You don't like this section of racetrack, you don't like racing.
Exactly. Cooper not wasting a lot of time. Still a few seconds off, but up into 4th with his teammate Gaples. Tony Gaples, the AM competitor, one of the most experienced drivers in SRO America, Pirelli GT4 competition. Dynan hanging on right now to that fastest time in AM, but I think this next lap through, everything is going to change. Lots of personal best, but look at Pumpelly. Purple in both of the first sectors. First 2 sectors. And boom, to the top he goes, a 154.79 for points leader Spencer Pumpelly in the 66, the Racers Group, TRG, Adobe Road Winery, LaSalle Solutions, Porsche. Here's the number 72. Boy, it's just cycling, isn't it? Robinson. And Lewis.
Teammates to the top again. They're really getting the grips with that Camaro. Made that change mid-season last year. Now have races under their belt. They got the notebook to work from. Great crew, been together a long, long time. Led by Jimmy Fraser.
And Cooper up into 3rd, a solid 3rd at a 54.78 in that black number 10 Black Dog Speed Shop McLaren. Just that quick. Pumpelly's back to 4th. Brynjolfsson, you called it, Cal. Fastest AM driver. 5th overall in that brilliant yellow number 7 Volt Lighting Park Place Porsche at a 55.6.
A lot of personal best still being set here, so can Gar Robinson hang on to the top position? Pumpelly just went fastest in sector 1 at 40.2, which is half a second clear of Gar Robinson's best in that sector, so that has a lot of potential for a pole lap if he can find clean air up ahead of him.
Looks like he went fastest in sector 2 as well, Cal. Yeah, huge potential here.
Yeah, this could be way down deep into the 53 range.
Question is that him that just went through and got bottled up in some traffic possibly? Keep an eye out. Watching for him to the top, a 153 flat.
Yeah.
Well
and
underneath.
all the signs, didn't it?
It sure did. By almost 4/10 faster than Lewis's pole time from last year.
That's a team that's really firing on all cylinders, led by Kevin Buckler, the TRG group. Dave Fullerton, their engineering thing. So really starting to hit their stride. Some very experienced team members all the way around now starting to gel, and that could be ominous for the rest of the championship contenders.
I'll tell you, Spencer did that running up onto the back of Andretti's McLaren as he completed that lap and still got a fast sector out of it. It tells you just the pace that he had. Fosnot sits 6th overall in the 53, the bright orange Fuji Murillo Mercedes. That's 2nd in the AM category. Dynan, very impressive here, Cal, up into 3rd. He had some rough goes in the first couple of the street course events, but a solid 3rd right now in the number 210 Flying Lizards Porsche at a 55.24.
The team has said he's shown a lot of speed in testing. He's coached by Robbie Foley, and will share the car with him in Sprint X competition, so the boy has pace.
Fosnot jumps to 2nd overall, fastest in the AM category. That is a great lap at a 53.7 for Matt Fosnot. And he pushes Robinson, Lewis, Cooper, Brynjolfsson, that gang all back a bit. There's a look at, not sure which one of the Camaros it is. I believe that's going by.
I think that's Robinson.
Yes. They had a late addition to the sprint category. Greg Palmer entered to be able to get a little extra track time. That was Gar, okay.
I'm sure this is going to be a good lap. He had a very slow first sector, maybe in traffic, so now he'll be just looking to clear road ahead, see if he can dig deep and get this car up onto the front row potentially.
And a good lap by Drew Stavely now, who waited a little bit longer in the session to really throw one down. The number 12, 3G Ian Lacey Racing Mustang. Last year's AM Sprint X champion in the number 12. And he is 6th overall, 2nd in the AM category right now. Pushes Andretti, who's slipped around Brynjolfsson. Andretti now 3rd in the AM category, 8th overall, Cal.
Pumpelly is pitted, so he may be just resting on that time.
Here's a look at Drew, and that making the switch this year. They ran Ginettas last year, and now back to Mustangs. Both he and Frank Gannett, his teammate here, a lot of experience in Mustangs out at Utah Motorsports campus and the Ford Performance Driving School. And they said we had the opportunity to get back behind the wheel of some big American muscle, and they welcomed the change.
Yeah, they're working through some braking issues that they had at Long Beach, waiting for some homologation on some different master cylinders and such, but very happy with their choice with this platform with the Mustang GT4 car.
Keep an eye on Drew as he looks to be on a good one here. Just an update, Ian James now makes his first appearance in the top 10. The fastest drivers in this category. Multiple wins over the last few years. 7th overall right now. Looks like Drew has backed out of it, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Andretti did the same, so hopefully with Drew now backing off doesn't stymie Andretti, who's now trying to start a fast one, I believe. From Ian James yesterday, you mentioned the Panos up to 6. He just said we're dramatically down on top end speed, some 12 kilometers compared to some of the other cars in the field, so they're scratching their heads a little bit. And he just went purple in sector 3.
Boy, right now, Pumpelly has this field covered by 0.6 of a second. We'll see what Fosnot's able to do here, although he's got some traffic in front.
Here is James. Not only drives this car, he kind of manages the team now. Taking over from Tom Milner Sr., who's once again back into retirement. I'm sure it's semi. He'll be back.
He'll be back. I saw him wandering the paddock yesterday,
here, yeah.
So he's here.
His daughter, Erin, operates the Wright Motorsports team, works with them, so.
And we heard as well that Bob Leitzinger might be coming here this weekend just to come and watch some race cars, and that's great. Of course, a legendary family in sports car racing in North America. See if we have any significant changes here. James, that last lap, moved up to 6th overall. We'll see what he does in this one. Looks like he had a fairly clear lap.
Yeah, he's got a couple of personal best sectors in, so this could be better for him. We'll see how far it moves him up. Grab half a second, that would be a big leap. Let's see what happens here as he finishes off this lap. Yes, up to 3rd.
Nice, 54 flat, right?
Still a second off Pumpelly's time, so be happy with the grid position, maybe. You want to be up front and be quickest, but they'll be scratching their heads of it being a second off the pace.
Here you see Spencer, the Racers Group crew. They've decided, all right, we're in good shape here with 1 minute left in this session. That's how quick it flies. So the question is, who's got anything left on the table? Stavely has jumped back up into the 2nd spot in the AM category. Brynjolfsson had moved to 2nd, gone around Andretti and Dynan with a good lap and moved his way up. And Elganian, who had been back outside of the top 10 for a while, Cal, in that new KTM crossbow, has jumped to 9th. In the overall order, he runs in the pro category. Again, they're still sussing out that new car.
Andretti just went personal best sector 1, so maybe there's a little bit of time left on the board here for him to leap up the order a bit.
Look here at the 169, the BGB Motorsports Porsche of Tom Collingwood. And this is a car that's doing, or the team that's doing double duty. They're also
floating a lot of speed in there.
Yeah, he did.
Just from the eye, it looked like maybe you'd attacked a little bit too hard, but got it back together. Nice job. Not intimidated by the
he
roller
sure
coaster.
isn't. All right, checker is out, so this is the last opportunity. Anybody on a lap, it will count. Let's see, Collingwood currently 15th overall, 9th in AM.
He may jump up here.
Position. Picked up a spot. That's a row farther up. That's important.
Personal best all the way through the lap, so some of that comes from some of the drivers who just don't have the experience, Greg. They're naturally going to get quicker each lap. They just build up to speed rather than able to just jump on it immediately. And Andretti finishing off a lap here.
Let's see, 10th overall, 4th in AM. And this one, he picks up a spot. Yep. Up to 9th. And you think, all right, that was just an improvement of one spot. Well, it moved him to the inside of what would be row 5. And that can be a big difference sometimes. Pumpelly, boy, he had him covered, didn't he?
Yeah, that was a big lap. Big lap.
And the outside of the front row provisionally, your AM pole sitter and Matt Fosnot. What a great performance he's put in here. And that number 53 Fuji Murillo Racing entry. There's the number 50 of James inside row 2. With that very special livery you see on the side of the car. It says "For the Fans," which was Dr. Don Penos's belief about racing. It's for the fans, and they are honoring that with that historic graphic scheme.
It's Clennon.
And 57.8, so a little bit off.
Looking down the order here, I mean, everything's kind of where you'd expect it to be stacked up. I think Fastnart's lap is super impressive for him to be on the front row overall as an AM driver, so that's probably the standout lap of this session other than Pumpelly's pole.
And I think part of that, I mean, obviously Matt is a very talented AM driver, there's no question of that, but that Mercedes platform has always been very stout here, whether it's the GT3 version or the GT4 car. Again, Shane Lewis on pole and won last year, and you put a driver of Matt's ability in it, and you can extract something like that out of it, can't you?
Well, that Mercedes is so good, like a great all-rounded, you know what I mean? It doesn't suffer in any one area, and one thing that's really good at is the compliancy over the curbs. And when you attack through the S's, you need to be able to ride those a little bit and still be effective. So Matt certainly put the platform to good use there with a great lap.
I think it's going to be interesting here. We're looking at Elganian. Once again, that's the brand new car. They haven't had a lot of time on it. He's 10th overall, 6th in pro, but the pros are scored in the overall order. But that car, genuinely, because of the little engine it runs and not the power, it runs very light. If the race goes green, that comes up later on today. The last half of the race, generally, he gets relatively significantly quicker compared to some of the other cars because it just doesn't run the tires off it. So he's going to be in for an interesting run. But for Spencer Pumpelly, doesn't get a whole lot more interesting or satisfying, Ryan.
Spencer Pumpelly on pole here, of course, coming off of the big win at Long Beach as well. If there is such a thing as momentum in this sport, it seems like you guys have it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, this is 3 for 3 on qualifying now. These guys put together a really good car for a lap. But I have to say, as proud as I am of the TRG guys and as good of a car this was, I had a little luck there. We decided, because we had a lot of cars ahead of us in pit lane, to wait and go out last. So we timed it to stay ahead of the fastest guy. We didn't want to ruin anyone else's lap as we're getting up to temp. And it timed that well, but a lot of other cars did that too. So I caught a bunch of traffic on that lap, and I was kind of cursing myself for the position I had found. And sure enough, coming out of Oak Tree, I caught that Sin car, and the only car in the field that has lower top end than us. I feel bad for the guy. He's like 10 miles an hour down. So I had a monster tow down the back straightaway, got him, passed him clean. And then the next bit of traffic was Jared Andretti coming in the front straightaway. And I caught him right as we came in the last corner and used his draft all the way to the start finish. Zero impedance, 2 monster drafts. Usually can't get the pole by that much, but I'll get lucky every now and then, and I'll take it. But thanks to TRG and LaSalle and everyone here, you know, the Race Series wines, this is a good way to start the day.
And you mentioned previously, in previous races, that, yeah, the one-lap pace is good, but you guys are still working on getting a car that's consistent through a full run. How much progress do you feel you've made to that end?
We really haven't had a lot of time to test since the last race, and of course with the second practice rained out yesterday. We have some ideas we're going to try, but I think we're not going to really know till the race starts how we fare over the course of 50 minutes.
But you got a good place to start. Good luck in the race.
Thanks, appreciate it, Ryan.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, and like I said, I wasn't sure. I thought he may have been held up a little bit by Andretti, but apparently
not.
it worked beautifully for him.
And he says luck. I tell you what, it's experience. I used to race against a guy called Greg, and I followed him at Hockenheim once with the long straight at the old circuit. We had 3 chicanes. I managed to fumble myself over traffic in every chicane, and he timed it to grab a toe on everyone near the pole by like a second. And you said, oh, it's luck. It's not luck. No. It's just timing and being in the right place at the right time.
Big picture, and being able to look ahead and go, this is where I want to be. So here's a look at the provisional grid now. Pumpelly, overall pole, and that's his 3rd in 4 races, so not too shabby. And Matt Fosnau, what a lap for the AM driver. And you can see if it's the numbers highlighted in white, it's a pro car. If it's in red, it's an AM car. Ian James 3rd, Gar Robinson 4th, and the Panos and Camaro respectively, then Shane Lewis in the Camaro, and Michael Cooper in the lighter McLaren. And it's nice to have that less weight, but if you've got everything in the car set up for what you thought was going to be a car that was 40 plus pounds or kilos heavier, you still have a little bit of chasing to do. Stavely there, 7th, 2nd in the AM category. Brynjolfsson 3rd in the AM category in the number 7. Andretti 4th, and then Elganian rounds out the top 10, and completing the top 5 in the AM category would be Michael Dinan for Flying Lizard Motorsports in the Porsche, with Radicic right there. Jeff Burton coming over from Reardon Racing and having a good run. Collingwood, and then Jason Bell for Global Motorsports Group in the Porsche, rounding out the top 15 overall. So again, that is the provisional starting lineup for the sprint race that will be coming up just a little bit later on this afternoon. But folks, we are by no means done with qualifying. Welcome back, everybody, and as you can see, some of the similar cars, the same cars and teams, some new cars are now going to be on display as we get ready to go qualifying for the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X Championship chase. That also has embedded in the series. That's the national chase. Also, we have the Eastern Regional Series competitors will be running here as well. All part of the Pirelli GT4 America event at Virginia International Raceway, presented by Henry Repeating Arms. And the cars are making their way out now for their qualifying runs. And again, this is where there's a little bit of a change. If you've been following the championship over the past few years, well, this is where things are going to change up just a little bit, as opposed to one qualifying session, as Cal talked about earlier, that used to set the grid for the first race, then fast lap in that first race would establish the grid in the second. Now these Sprint X groups are split into 2 short qualifying sessions. The lower rated driver qualifies in the first session, starts race number 1 of the doubleheader. Then the higher rated driver will jump in, do the second qualifying session, and will start the second race. So this is the first, essentially the qualifying for the first of the doubleheader rounds here this weekend at Virginia International Raceway. And for these championships, for the National Championship and the Eastern Regional Championship, this is essentially rounds 3 and 4.
Yep, so it's
been a bit of a break.
6 weeks or so since COTA. And again, just going back, we had talked a little bit about the GT4 times. Last year it was all Sprint X that ran here, and that target of 153.396 set by Shane Lewis, but we just had Spencer Pumpelly blow that out of the water. And so we'll see just exactly where things shake out. And once again, now you see that blue and silver Flying Lizard Porsche running a little bit of a different number this time out. The 21 Michael Dinan will be doing the qualifying in this first session. Then Robbie Foley will climb in for the second one. They do a great job, don't they, Flying Lizard, at getting that car out front with lots of good, clean track here.
Yep, and that's all part of the deal, just being prepared and being ready to go. And he should be up on the wheel. He put together a nice qualifying run for the sprint race action this afternoon, and sharing this car with Robbie Foley. So it'll be Dinan up first, and Robbie Foley will have his crack at the wheel.
Fastest car overall in the first practice session yesterday, the dry one, was the 77-volt Lighting Park Place Porsche of Alan Brynjolfsson and Trent Hinman. Just to give you a little bit of a feel here, then it was the 19 Stephen Cameron Racing BMW of Gregory Leafoge and Sean Quinlan were the fastest cars in the overall. Fastest AM car was the Autotechnic Racing BMW of John Allen and Chris Wilson. Currently in the points, Matt Travis and Jason Hart in the NOLA Sport Porsche lead fairly comfortably over Dinan and Foley in the car we are watching. And then Quinlan and Leafoge would be next up in the points for the Pro-Am category in the National Championship. In the AM, Preston Calvert and Matt Keegan in the Panos are leading those points. And boy, I'll tell you, again, Dinan, having just been out in that sprint qualifying session, has a good feel for the track and is really pushing early here to get a time.
Great story there with Preston Calvert and Matt Keegan. Matt's been suffering this week with a medical ailment and didn't think he was going to be here, but he fought through. Got the sign off from the doctors yesterday, so he hasn't seen any track action yet. So be an amazing story if they can come up with a solid result here this weekend.
Keegan's got speed.
He does.
Think about what he did at Long Beach in the sprint race. A third overall qualifying effort, fourth overall finish and win in the AM category.
His whole goal this year is to grab a championship, forever the bridesmaid, as he said, and he doesn't want to give it up. So when the doctors say, no, you need to stay in hospital for a few more days, he said, that's not happening.
We have a few competitors that are toughing out some stuff here this weekend. A couple of touring car guys coming off of recent surgeries and the like and said, nope, I'm going to go race. Recover after the weekend. So Dinan right on the off here, gets down to a 155.96.
Hart is up to second. Coming off that brilliant performance with he and Matt Travis sweeping both rounds at Circuit of the Americas. Those guys were really hooked up there. Be curious to see if they can maintain that kind of form as we hit a different racetrack, but certainly an outstanding start to their season campaign.
Yeah.
That Fastnut guy again. To second.
He's got chops, doesn't he? Again, he's technically one of the East competitors, but it's just he runs the Pro-Am class, and they just sort of run, as we said, embedded in here. I'll tell you, after the issues Michael Dinan had at the opening street circuit events in the sprint category, being back here, and they were also the Flying Lizard that Foley Dinan do, as we said, second in the points, good runs at Coda. And I'm sure he's happy to be back on a track that's got a little bit more of a margin, and he is really throwing that Cayman around.
Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air compared to a street circuit, isn't it?
Exactly.
Just a chance to relax and unwind a little bit down these long straightaways. Just think about how you're going to attack the brake zone down here. Really critical to find the sweet spot here and not overdrive the entry. But don't leave anything on the table at the same time. Almost locked up that unweighted right front there as he carved the corner.
He's gone purple in the first two sectors.
Yeah, this is a good lap.
A little wiggle there, but not enough to cost anything.
He had traffic that may have kind of impeded him a little bit on that previous lap, so.
55.9 was his best. 54.5.
It's a nice lap.
Yes, it was. Travis jumps up into second now at a 55.122, a 1 minute 55.122 second lap. Brynjolfsson now up into third at a 155.134, 12/1000 separating second and third right now. Then it's Fastnat in that car, the bright orange, number 34 Murillo Racing Fuji Mercedes-AMG GT4. Nice lap by Sean Quinlan, Cal. Jumps to 4th overall.
That's a really great lap for him. Long ways to go here. Nice clean session, just approaching the halfway mark. 15-minute session. 8 minutes on the board. And these tires, these Pirelli P0 should be right in their sweet spot. Expect some quick laps still to come here.
Speaking of quick, Vesko Kozarov.
He is quick.
Ooh, isn't he?
Purple in Sector 1.
I'd say he's one of the quicker AM drivers on the planet.
Purple in Sector 2. This is a big lap for Vesko. Could be looking at a pole lap right in front of our eyes here.
Currently down in 15th.
Yeah, that's not going to stay there for long.
No, it's not.
Look like the tidiest run through the roller coaster, but maybe that's just how hard he's attacking.
Let's see, what does he put up for a number here? He had a 2:07. It should be a big jump. Boom, to the top, a 54.285, Cal.
Yeah, that was a sweet lap.
And as you said, a little off in that 3rd sector.
Mm-hmm.
Still a personal best.
There's a couple of tenths there from some of the other competitors who have been quicker through that sector. So I think if he can clean that up, the key is do the tires still have their sweet spot left. He is attacking using every millimeter of that exit curb on turn 3.
He's using every bit of curb he can, straightening out the snake, and now he should be spectacular up through these S's.
New pole sitter, Greg.
Fasnacht to the top as we watch Kozarov here, but Fasnacht a 54.253.
0.03 of a second quicker. Kozarov has not laid down a fast first sector, so maybe his tires have peaked a little bit. We talk about finding that.
Here's the Autotechnic Racing number 16, Chris Wilson.
He goes to the top.
Wow, nice lap.
4-1. Everyone just hammering out fast laps here. It's going to get exciting.
See if anybody can dip into the 53s. I think somebody will.
Yeah, Wilson didn't have a purple sector in that lap, a personal best, but just great consistency over the whole lap.
Here's Brynjolfsson. No, check that. That is the Matt Travis NOLA Sport entry. He's currently
personal best, sector 1 and
best,
2.
He is.
Initially, the timing and scoring was showing Hart behind the wheel, but it is now showing Travis.
Which, in terms of the rating, you would think that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Matt, who had a superb drive in the finishing the 2nd race at Circuit of the Americas. Where do they slot through? Currently in the 5th spot overall.
Jumps up to 4th.
So nice run there.
So is that lap by Wilson going to be enough? Under 5 minutes to go here. Everyone seems to have peaked a little bit, looking at sector times right now. Not sure if anyone's just cooling things off a little bit for a last gasp flyer. Ooh, big problem, Greg.
Oh boy, that is up on the roof. That is the number 44. The Kelly Moss Photon Motorsports Audi of Eric and Greg Palmer. That is huge. So you look at Andretti.
Red flag. I'm not sure if Andretti car completed that lap before the red flag flew.
Yeah, Mueller had just moved up in the number 3 Epic Motorsports entry and improved. I think that time will hold. But yeah, immediately to the red flag. Not a surprise anytime you have a car inverted. The 36, good run by the 22 of Radisik as well. Sharing with Carl Whitmer in that PrecisionDrivingTech.com entry. He's jumped up into 9th. But everybody under red flag conditions, and some of this safety vehicles making their way out on track as well. And that happened with about 5 minutes left in this session. I think that's going to pretty much end the session. That's going to take a while to effect cleanup for the Palmer Audi.
Again, so maybe that's an indication they feel they do have enough margin with the tight schedule to get this group back out there again for another crack at it. Been a busy morning for the track walkers.
Boy, hasn't it? So there you see how things sit provisionally here. Wilson in the Auto Technic entry over Fosnot and Kozarov.
This is Leah Fouche, so I think Steve Cameron has made the decision, even if we do go green again, we're just going to set up for the second phase of qualifying. Throw a fresh set of tires at it. Stickers going on. If you did want to scrub yesterday, probably that wet session didn't help teams who prefer to do that, but fresh Pirelli P zeros going on for Gregory Lefouge.
And there was some discussion, obviously, about with the cars that were doing double duty with the Sprint and Sprint X about refueling. And normally in this session, you do not refuel between these two sessions. Fresh set of tires, yes.
I think they made the determination no refueling.
That's what I understood
sessions,
as well.
yeah.
So some of those guys that were qualifying in Sprint, that were running the exact same car, are running a bit heavy in the Sprint
Right,
session.
there's a compromise there. But same for everyone. So.
Absolutely. And we just got word from Ryan in the pit lane talking to one of the officials that the driver of that number 44, the Palmers, is okay.
Sean Eric was driving the car, so.
Yes. So that is good news. He's the son of the father-son duo. And checker now does show, as you can see on the screen there, folks. So confirmation that it's going to take a little bit too long to clean that up. Not a surprise, really. And so everybody getting ready for the second Sprint X Pirelli GT4 America qualifying session. And
this is where we could see some really cracking times, because you
Yes.
got some stellar drivers about to jump in here. Can anyone get close to that sprint time that Pumpelly laid down a few minutes ago?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Gregory Lefouge getting in the 19 Cameron Racing products, Cameron Racing BMW, but Trent Hinman will be getting into the 77 Park Place Volt lighting machine. Andrew Davis into the, here's a look at it, Cal. See if we can catch the end of it. It's out of turn 10.
And again, with the wet grass, you just go, if you drop a wheel up through those high-speed S's. Just got tipped by the tire bundles there.
All right, of course, the first race, the provisional grid is set. Chris Wilson on pole, Ryan.
Chris Wilson is a happy guy, pole sitter here after our first round of qualifying for Sprint X in GT4. So tell us about your lap. Where did that one come from?
Well, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Anyway, BMW is great this weekend. Obviously, BOP changes from weekend to weekend. So BMW seems to be a good car this weekend. I saw that Pumpelly put it on the pole in the other class. But, you know, we're getting there. We're learning this car slowly but surely. And the Auto Technic guys are great. My teammate John Allen is about ready to go out and do the same that I just did. So hopefully we'll just keep this train rolling.
What message did you pass along to John about track conditions, the way the car is handling, to prepare him as well as possible?
Just go for it. Track is great this morning. I mean, obviously cool. Not a lot of rubber on the track, but still, I mean, cool, cold conditions. What more can you do other than just hammer it?
Congratulations on the pole. Good luck in the races this weekend.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, that's a great start. Keep in mind, they come in here in the third spot in points and only 10 off of the lead. So a really good effort here after a second and a fourth at the opening 2 rounds at Circuit of the America. You nail a pole like that, That's how you want to start it off.
Bit of a strategy call as well, because the rules dictate the lower graded driver should be qualifying in that first session. But I think if you have equal gradings, then it's up to the team to determine how they want to do it. Certainly Chris has a lot more experience than John, so trying to play a game of getting that track position early and holding on.
There you see the provisional starting lineup for the first of the doubleheader races. That'll be coming up this afternoon. Another great run by Matt Fosnot to be outside of the front row. Kozaroff and Burton. I think we saw kind of a breakthrough run for Jeff Burton at the way he held on to that position at Circuit of the Americas. I think he's feeling, and he had a good run here last year as well. He likes this place. He's comfortable here. Yeah, I think he gained a lot of confidence from that. Yes. Amazing run he had at Circuit of the Americas, so he should be up on the wheel here. Who's your favorite here, mate? I think Robbie Foley. You know, Dynamo's only 4/10 off the pole in his session. I think Robbie's got great potential in the Flying Lizard. Porsche, Hinman, certainly the fast time yesterday. Whitmer, some good names there to battle out for this next pole. Yeah, it's just it's stacked, isn't it? It really is. Going to be coming up here. Andrew Davis, Nate Stacey, brand new car for Davis and Briscoe here this weekend with Kelly Moss. That's right. And first time James Safronis has run CJ Moses in the Global Motorsports Group Audi, but this is the first time that they're coming out as teammates. And of course, Safronis won every championship in the GT4 category last year, the Sprint, the Sprint X, and the Overall, and had 2 championships the previous year. And so James is certainly going to be somebody that you got to keep an eye on here as well. Just saw a shot there of
Fosnot, I believe. He's got 2 front row starts.
Yeah, that's
not a bad start to the weekend.
Pretty good go for him here. There's a look at the number 27, the Krug Speed, the lone Ginetta in the field.
Dying, there's that little bit of traffic. He got the lap before he laid down a fast one. I've heard his entry on the front straightaway, which is basically the flying start to that quick lap he put down. So maybe there was a few tenths left there. Ooh.
That was
a moment.
Mr. Golinello. A bit of excessive welly. There's a look at Kozaroff.
Yeah, he was using it all right there, wasn't he?
And they've sort of played the same game, haven't they, that the Wilson Allen duo was doing. Kozaroff rated AM, but a lot more experience. But going out, get back down to Ryan.
Yeah, let's check in with Matt Fosnot, who's had a busy morning already, starting on pole in class in Sprint, outside of the front row just a few moments ago in Sprint X. You pretty satisfied with the pace that you found here today?
Yeah, we were really satisfied with the AMG. The Murillo crew did a great job with both cars. The second car, actually, jumping from one to the other, it's set up very differently. It was pretty challenging to get used to. I was just telling Christian, don't get caught up in your initial feelings because the car's actually really good. It's just completely different. That was the biggest challenge.
Why was it that they were set up so differently?
Yeah, same looking cars. We're just trying 2 different things, and we'll see which one works out better. We'll probably make some tweaks for the race. We're still trying to learn. The cars are both pretty good, but why not make it a little bit better by trying a couple things?
Year 2 for you, on a regular basis at least in GT4. How much more comfortable are you this year than you were a year ago at this time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with more time, you get way more comfortable. So little things like worrying about, getting a grid on time, or having a routine to get in the car, or wondering wait, which is ABS, which is TC. You just kind of reach over now without even looking. So yeah, you get comfortable with different settings. So immensely different.
Does Christian have a shot at pole?
I think we do. The Porsches are really, really fast, and I'm not sure we have the best setup in the 34 car right now versus the 53. I think if we had another session to tweak the setup, yeah. But we'll see.
All right, good luck to you. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Interesting, and that's got to make it a tough choice when both of your qualifying runs are outside front row.
Right. But he knows the feel, and they'll be able to analyze the data and get Christian's read on it too, what he's feeling in this car. But it seemed like Matt said maybe he was leaning towards the other setup, I believe, from his conversation with Ryan there.
Look here at the 22, PrecisionDrivingTech.com BMW. That's now Carl Whitmer, who's climbed behind the wheel, paired with team owner Marko Radicic for the season in Sprint X competition. And we know Carl's a mighty quick driver, as is Marko, but Carl's certainly very, very quick. There is a look at the 04 CrowdStrike Amazon Web Services Audi. That is part of the Global Motorsports Group program. And it should be James Fronis behind the wheel getting ready to set off in this qualifying effort.
He's got re-established as a bronze-rated driver. George Hamilton of the World Championship.
Exactly.
A different tone today, James.
Exactly. The more bronze you're running here. And one of the two most experienced drivers here in this field. We talked about Tony Gables in the sprint category. Well, this is James' 26th year of running Pirelli World Challenge, now SRO Motorsports America competition. Well, the continuation of the cleanup of the incident for the Palmer Audi from the Photon Motorsports entry continues. It's going to be a little bit more time before we can get back to it, so we are going to do a little bit of a pause here on our global web stream of qualifying from the beautiful Virginia International Raceway, all part of the Blancpain GT World Challenge America feature weekend at VIR, presented by Henry Repeating Arms. We'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to pit lane as the cars have come to life and the session is green. Absolutely wonderful timing. Great to have you back with us after the pause to clean up the incident from the first of the 2 Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X qualifying sessions. The second session, this will set the field and the grid for the second of the doubleheader races that will unfold here tomorrow afternoon. Great to have you back with us. Again, the same group of cars. In theory, Cal, it's your higher rated driver that should be on board these cars. If you're running Pro-Am, it would be the Pro driver. If you're running an AM and you're both rated equally, you can do pretty much whatever you want. We've seen that play out. But this one should be a lot of fun because this is a stacked group of top-notch drivers in this field.
Yeah, there's some real wheelmen in this group, but as you said, some people played a strategy. I think certainly Chris Wilson, who grabbed the pole, would typically be the faster of the 2 drivers in that number 16 BMW, with John Allen not quite the same experience level, and certainly Kozarov laid down a lap that I think was fast enough for 3rd on the grid. So, but you got Trent Hinman and Robbie Foley. There's Foley right there in that Flying Lizard Cayman. Really nice young man, kind of burst onto the racing scene, in my eyes anyway, over the last couple of seasons, but a lot of talent.
That he has, and as you said, joined by the likes of Hinman, Travis in the number 47 point, or the 47 point leading NOLA Sport Porsche, Nate Stacy in the 55 Core Auto Sport Grand Sanitation Mustang, Carl Whitmer in the 22 Precision Driving Tech BMW, Christian Shimshak, who is very quick in the number 34 Murillo Mercedes, Stephen McAleer. I mean, it is a deep group.
It is stacked.
And let's not forget guys like Grahovic. Keep in mind the number 92 of Grahovic and Chris Omak, they had a win in the AM category here at VIR last year, so they too are going to be fun to watch in this one. But we get ready to go. We've seen this 21, the Lizard car. It goes out quick. Obviously, Dynan had a little bit of with that sprint run when he went out in his Sprint X qualifying run. He had a little bit of extra track knowledge, and I'm sure in this break he was telling Robbie Foley, here's all you need to worry about. We heard Chris Wilson say, track's beautiful, just pin it, man, go.
And I think the key is whatever your strategy was, maybe it changed based on the action we've seen so far. We've seen a lot of disrupted sessions, so you can't bank on getting 15 minutes of drive time here to get a lap in. So that may be, guys will be a little bit more aggressive up on the wheel a little bit sooner, more aggressive starting pressure on the tires as well.
All right, everybody's starting their first full flyers here. At 3.3 miles, essentially, Cal, even as cool as it is, by the end of a lap here, if you push it, are your tires pretty much ready, or do you need 2, you think, this morning?
I think you need a couple. I really do. I mean, it's still relatively cool out there this morning, so track temperature is low as well. And I think by the time you get through that second lap, which we're on right now, Robbie Foley and the gang right behind him will be thinking about trying to lay down a quick lap just in case we get an abbreviated session once again.
Look there at the 77, Brynjolfsson and Trent Hinman, run by Park Place Motorsports, the Volt Lighting car right behind it, the points leaders from NOLA Sport. As you said now with, should be Jason Hart behind the wheel, I believe. And then behind them, I think that's the team car, the 46, in the hands of Jean Capestro Dubé. Wow.
47 car is hooked up.
Isn't it?
A couple of purple sectors there for him. Battle of the Caymans right now.
See Hinman a little bit wider line through Hogpen the last couple of corners there.
Towing that number 47 car to the stripe here, so.
Hinman briefly to the top at a 53.6. Did Travis? No.
Close.
Yeah.
400s apart.
Yeah, it's incredibly close. Hinman, Travis, Foley. 46. Capestro Dubé, the 34 of Shimshak. Whitmer.
Some confusing information in terms of who's driving the 47, because the start of the earlier session it said Hart switched to Travis, now it's showing Travis, so you have to switch drivers. It can't be the same driver qualifying, so we'll get clarification on that. But either way, it's Hinman with a fast time to beat right now, 53.6. What was Pompelli's 53.0, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, so
very fast.
U10 still on the board here.
And Yeah, it would have to be because Travis is rated bronze, Hart is the silver.
Yep, so there should be Hart behind the wheel then. Purple first sector for Hinman, even though Hart seems to be closer. Switches on autonomy scoring to show Jason Hart behind the wheel.
There we go. And sometimes that's just a matter of the driver not getting the transponder plug switched all the way. So it's going to be fascinating to see now at the end of what you said you really need that second lap. Little wiggle under braking there by Hinman. And
so close.
Wow.
Still showing Hinman had faster first sector and second over Jason Hart right behind him, but Hart's not going anywhere. It's going to be tight for this lap time.
All right, here we go. Foley will be leading him across the line. You'd expect him to go to the top at least briefly.
Not sure.
But
It
let's
doesn't really
see.
show the sector times to establish that.
Hinman now 53.409. And Hart at 53.437. So close.
He's getting the benefit of the draft down the long straights here. You got 3 fast sections as Hinman now gives it up. Gonna cool things off a little bit. And again, this really puts into perspective that flying lap that Spencer Pumpelly did in the sprint qualifying session at 53 flat. He said he got a couple of big toes. When you see guys like Hinman, Hart and Foley still almost half a second off, it's an indicator that was a brilliant lap by Spencer.
Absolutely, which he's capable of, no question. But I think, as he talked about those toes, a place like this, especially down that long back straight, that can make a heck of a difference.
Big time. Andrew Davis now behind the wheel of this fresh Cayman for the Kelly Moss Racing Group.
Boy, he's firmly embedded within Kelly Moss, isn't he, with all of the efforts he puts in there.
Such a great guy, superb driver, so much experience, great mentor and coach. It's exactly what any top-tier prep shop would want to have in their stable as a guy like Andrew steering things.
Truly one of the nicest guys in any paddock. Just a class individual, along with the talent he has. Let's take a look here. Davis in that last run jumped up into the 5th overall spot. Again, that's a Pro-Am program. It's still Shimshak and the number 34 Murillo. Fuji Mercedes would be the fastest AM pairing right now. 4th. Here's a look at Safronis and the CrowdStrike Amazon Web Services Global Motorsports Group red and white Audi. Here comes Shimshak. See what he could put together here. See if he can leap up from his 54 flat at this stage.
You know, he'd love to repeat what his teammate has already done this morning with 2 front row grid positions. Moves up to 3rd, so
nice.
just off that front row.
Yeah, 53.6, so good run.
Hinman's up on the wheel again for another flyer, it looks like.
And McAleer in the number 29 entry has just put together a solid lap, jumped up into the 4th spot. Stephen McAleer paired with Justin Raphael in the classic BMW M4 GT4. Yeah, Hinman's on it, isn't he?
Yeah. Down in 16th position, Matt Keegan is getting his first laps of the weekend in the number 51 Panos Avezzano. Coming off some medical problems earlier in the week, just got the all clear yesterday. Late dash to get over here cross country, California.
This is important too. I mean, they come in here well placed in the points.
Yeah, and Preston didn't have a great run in his qualifying session, so they need to pull something out of the bag here. It's going to be tough sledding.
All right, Hinman working through Oak Tree, and now the long run. Nobody to get a tow from, but nobody to be impeded by at this stage either.
Yeah, first sector's 2 or 3 tenths off his previous best, so I'm not sure if this is going to be an improvement. Yeah. Sector 2 was a personal best. Actually, that was his velocity, that was his speed through the trap was his personal best, but I'm not sure this is going to be a quicker lap for Trent. Take a look.
We're starting to see now Greg Leafauge in the number 19 Stephen Cameron BMW working up. Look, Is that the NOLA car into the pits? I believe so. Hart. And Trent.
Yeah, some 7/10 off his personal best. It just wasn't lining up, so maybe the tires were already peaked. That's that when you run off here. Whoa, that was a rough one.
That is rough, and there's that pit entrance for the short course. Burton having an off
moment. Everyone digging deep with just under 5 minutes to go. This racetrack will trip you up.
It's one of the reasons that we get so many drivers that come over from Europe that have never been here before, and they drive this place and they just go, we need more of these in Europe.
Yeah.
This track, this is where a driver can really make a difference, not just in terms of competence, but bravado.
Yeah, I just bumped into young Matt Campbell, a Porsche young professional driver, going to be out here in a little bit with the qualifying sessions for the GT3 cars. And I said, what do you think of the racetrack? He says, amazing. He did get a handful of laps in the test day, but yesterday was thwarted with some problems. But he said it really makes you treat it with a lot of respect. And when you got a young, fiery stud of a driver making those comments, it means something.
It does. It's going to be fun to see for Leia Fouge. His last lap was his best, but I'm not sure he's in a position to better it here. He needs to find something in this last sector. Just look at the 21 of Foley. Had been up as high as third in his grip. Dropped now down to the 6th position here. With about 3 minutes left in this session, they do fly by. Whooping off here for the Doghouse Performance Audi. That should be Andy Pilgrim. Or is it
showing Poland?
Poland, and again, that's
two drivers with the same rating, I believe.
You're right. Poland, of course, absolute front runner in touring cars in Touring Car America competition a few years ago. They've taken some time to work and build this team and program, and got no less a talent than Andy Pilgrim, who had a win here in 2010 in the K-Pax Volvo back in the era. Problem there for the Krug Speed number 27, a quick spin. Eleven Goulart, you don't see him make many mistakes here.
No. Shimshak looked like he was on a bit of a fly, still sitting in that 3rd position in the Murillo Racing Mercedes AMG number 34. I think that was right at the sector that he was just coming through, so may have stymied this potential. Having said that, he just went personal best in sector 1, so it's not effective at all. He was up on it, right? There he is.
Yep, he is on a good one here. 3rd right now at a 53.512.
Yeah, traffic up ahead, but he's on a good lap for him.
A little bit too much there.
Just asked a bit too much of those Pirelli P0s and loses the rear end on the Ginetta.
Watching Goulart now as he's just gathered it up and trying to put another lap in here. Number of cars, Hinman and Hart into the pits, but Shimshak, 2 personal bests in that orange Fuji Mercedes. Right behind here, is that the 22 of Whitmer? It is. And watching for Shimshak, see. Again, 53, found a 10th, 53.4.
Yeah, didn't move him up the grid, but it was a nice lap. Looked like the last sector may have cost him some. But a nice lap, certainly a lot of potential in that car. Murillo Racing have some really quick cars here this weekend, it looks like. You have 3 qualifying sessions, you got your car up in the top 3 in all 3. That's saying something. There he is.
Let's see if he's able to. Looks like he's still pushing, Cal.
He is. Just coming up to the first sector, kind of runs right through. If you approach the high speed part of these S's, right through this sector, we should see that first sector, and he's backed off big time. So may have seen that traffic up ahead and just reading things, and but he's not going to have enough time on the board to regroup. So that's his qualifying pace done. See 10 seconds left to go.
The laps that anybody's on right now when that checker flies, if you are on a lap, it will count. you never know as we're watching Safronis. A couple of personal bests here.
Pretty quick for a bronze.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
He's got potential.
I think the lad's got a future. Here comes the number 16. Chris Wilson took to the top of the first session. See the big A on the, that's not for Autotechnic, that's the name of the team, but that big A on the front has a certain font and script to it. Alabama on the Tide. John very involved with the alumni engineering.
I think you don't want to say with this racetrack, though, is Roll Tide, do you?
Ooh, good point. Yeah, it's
with the action we've seen so
far today. Yeah, okay, yeah. Go Crimson.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. So unless somebody here in this last little bit here finds something real big, looks like Trent Hinman is going to be starting from pole in race 2 or round 4 of the Sprint X Championship for the Pirelli GT4 America Series.
Yeah, backing up the pace from yesterday's practice session, and not a big surprise, but
no,
it's going to be a hard-fought race for sure. Alan, his teammate Brynjolfsson, is certainly doing a great job as well. So one of the favorites going in, but number 47 car has got great pace.
It does. Did you see a little smoke out of the back of the 51 Panos as it was running down through the roller coaster? It may have been he just ran a little wide, but as the checker comes out, Keegan
jumps up a little bit.
A little bit.
Yep.
Take anything he can get. Yeah, there is smoke. Looks like there may have been some grass up in the grill.
I think there may be some fluid going on. The back of the car could just be the reflection sunlight, but it looked like there was some shiny stuff going on. Oh, that sounds sick.
I noticed a fair amount of grass up in the grill, I thought.
That would be a sad end to the story if I made all this effort and fighting through some ailments this week if the car is sick for the race.
It doesn't sound good.
Song,
yeah, that's a beautiful V8, and it's running on about 7, I think. Meanwhile, Hinman climbing out from the Volt Lighting Park Place Motorsports Porsche, the 718 Cayman. There's co-driver Alan Brynjolfsson. What a dynamic pairing they've been, winning here in one of the races last year, albeit a different car, but they work well together in general, and certainly apparently at this place. Points leaders, Hart and Travis, outside of the front row. Another strong qualifying effort, and Am pole for the number 34. It's been a good day for them.
Really good. So Porsches look strong, Mercedes looks good, BMW up in the mix.
Mac, yep, exactly. So, sounds like our man in the pits, Ryan Marine, may have wandered his way over to a pole sitter in the name of Trent Hinman.
All right, Trent Hinman on pole with the Park Place guys, and that was a tight qualifying effort. I think 35 thousandths of a second between the top 3. What does that bode for the race?
It's a little bit closer than I wanted it to be honest. I think I gave him a nice toe there too, so I'm sure that helped. But hey, to be honest with you, I mean, with the lack of track time we had yesterday due to the weather, really happy with how the Park Place guys pulled through. The Volt Lighting Cayman GT4 was really good. Alan did a hell of a job in Sprint X qualifying 1, so I think that's, I mean, it's the first race of the weekend, so that's the main focus right now. Nobody's really sure of what they have for a long run car yet, so historically I think we're pretty good with that, but again, there's a lot of unknowns going into the race this afternoon. There's going to be a lot of learning that has to happen, especially on the fly, but we're going to do the best we can with what we got and try to bring it home for a win.
You put on a show for us in qualifying. Congratulations on pole.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'll tell you, he was talking about closer than he might like. Look at the margins here. Hinman to Hart, 28 thousandths of a second. Hart to Shimshak in third, 7 1,000ths of a second. Then a little bit of a gap back to the BMW of McAleer. As you take a look here, you can see the margins now on your monitor, about a half second. But then gets really close once again. Margin 16 one-thousandths of a second, 29 thousandths of a second. Tell you what, the BOP, as they call it, balance of performance with these different makes and manufacturers, pretty darn tight, pretty close. Yes, the Porsches look very strong, but everybody's in with a shot. And let's not forget, we've got, for instance, Goulart, and that car, the number 27 Krug-Speed, that Ginetta, doesn't have a lot of straight line speed, runs that small little Ford V6 in it, but the longer the race goes green, better it is on tires. It can come alive. Goulart is a top flight driver as well, so lots of things to be paying attention here too as he teams with Anthony Giorazzi in the Krug-Speed machine, and that's what makes this very exciting here. Surprise to me was James Clay, obviously a problem for that number 3 Epic Motorsports BMW, because his co-driver had a very strong run in the sprint qualifying. And there's a look at a couple of guys that that's one of the team cars. There are 2, remember, in the NOLA Sport Group, and the number 46, John Capestro-Dubé, one of the drivers on board that program, joined by Mike Vess. And they've had a great start to the season, NOLA Sport has.
It seems like they've really got a great handle on the Cayman and got it tuned up, so to speak, and second weekend they've been very strong.
And we are now sort of switching gears and getting ready to go with our qualifying session for the combined TCR and TCA classes. Again, all these groups having double-header races here, but this one, these are more of the traditional format. If you've been following what was Pirelli World Challenge competition over the years, in the touring car category, it's double headers. There's only one qualifying, and then it is the fast lap from the first race that sets the field for race 2. And this qualifying session, which are really going to be coming at us in a big hurry here now, TCR and TCA combined. Britt Casey showing up in McCann Racing, putting together who had been competing in the TCR Cup category for the cars that are not running a sequential gearbox. McCann Racing equipped one of their Audi Sport RS3 LMSs with a sequential box, and Britt Casey, who's had a fair amount of success in other series and sports car and touring competition, really put in a lap in that practice session yesterday, Cal, and jumped to at the top at a 155.7, and a good job. In the McCann Racing entry, interestingly, it was a McCann Racing entry that was second quick, fastest in the Cup class, also from McCann Racing, Michael McCann Jr.
Yeah, so the team has got a great setup, and be interesting to see how it plays out. Britt won a TCR championship last year. Very comfortable in these machines and a bright young talent, so good to see him on the grid today.
Absolutely, as the getting ready to go. Then in the TCA category, Nick Whitmer won both of the races at the opening rounds at Circuit of the Americas some 6 weeks ago. But here, Mark Pombo in the Mini JCW, Mini Cooper JCW, was fastest in the practice session, running a lap at a 2-minute 10.737. And a great mix up at the front. You had the Mini Cooper, then you had Chris Haldeman in the X Factor Racing Honda Civic Si in the second spot, only a couple of tenths off. Then in third in the TCA, it was Tyler Maxson in the Copeland Motorsports Mazda. Again, just a few tenths off. Then Whitmer in the Subaru BRZ TS from Tech Sport Racing. So 4 different makes and manufacturers in the top 4 in TCA practice. That keeps things very interesting, and looking forward to seeing that unfold here. Do want to point out Robert Crocker, who's back in the order a little bit, sitting 11th in the number 24 Tech Sport Subaru, recently had an appendix removed and wasn't sure he was going to be here. He said his appendix came out. He follows Jordan Taylor.
Right.
He said his came out the day afterwards, and he said, yeah, I didn't think I was going to be here. Then I see Jordan was going to go racing, and I went, well, if he can, if Rodney can,
yes,
I got to be able to get to the track. So he's here.
Yes.
And going after it. So kudos. He sent me a note last night telling me about that, and I went, seriously, you don't have to go to those lengths to give us a good story.
He's caught in a sandstorm. Right?
Exactly. So he is ready to go here. And a good lap in that practice session. Sally McNulty and the Team Sally entry with some support from X Factor Racing. She's a time attack driver and highly rated in that. And she put in a really good lap in only her second event in a TCA car in door-to-door competition with an 8th place lap in her number 780 entry. There's a look at the 71 of Michael Hertzen.
Championship leader. 4 points over his teammate.
Yeah, very close.
Those guys there. First win in TCR competition on the streets of St. Pete a few weeks ago.
They had a 1-2, didn't they, in that second race at St. Pete in those Liqui-Moly FCP Euro machines. And then there is another guy coming off of some surgery, sitting in the number 34, the Risi Competizione Alfa Romeo Giulietta, James Walker, who has been exciting and fun and fast to watch in that car this season. Just gave the wall at St. Pete in that second race a little bit of a kiss, and turned out to be a fairly firm embrace when he bounced around a little bit and ended up breaking a collarbone. And he told the story. He said, I went to the doctor and I said, so what's the play here? And the doctor said, well, he said, you know, just we'll set it, put it in a sling, 12 weeks, you're good to go. When's your next race? He said, in about 4. And he said, well, we can plate it, and I can probably get you racing again. And James said, do it.
Yep.
And he's here and ready to go.
They made him do some push-ups, didn't they, or something, to get the all clear that he was strong enough to drive this week. Got the all clear on Wednesday, but great to have him in our paddock. He's really a great addition to the championship.
Character, he's fun. His pre and post race reports he does sort of as a interview session with himself, and it's absolutely hilarious when you read through them. Even has his son contribute every once in a while. Here's a look there at the 59. As we said, Mark Pombo was fastest in that lone dry practice yesterday, but not by much. Nate Norenberg, his teammate, right behind him in the yellow entry.
Little minis can do on this track. Certainly we're very competitive at the opening rounds of the championship. Sometimes it's horses for courses. We'll have to wait and see how things stack up here.
Yeah, exactly. A few drivers in this field are going to have the experience level in racing of a Mark Pombo, that's for sure. Nick Whitmer may be among them. Let's not forget, and one of the Tech Sport Racing Subaru BRC-TS is PJ Gronke. A couple of years ago, winning the Touring Car B Championship. Had a tough season when he stepped up to TCA last year. A few mechanical issues and the like. When he finished, he generally was always podium. And he'd like to have a little bit better go here, I think, this weekend.
A green flag, but we've got drive-through penalties for 3 cars. They were a little antsy getting that on the racetrack, I guess, for pit lane speed violation. Not a good start to your session.
No, especially when you don't have a lot of time in these sessions. And as you said, we've seen red flags, so last thing you want to do is be driving through pit lane on a penalty and have a red flag come out and realize, oh boy, this could be an issue. So now we should start to see some respective times. Casey's lap in that practice, a 1:55.7, to give you a little bit of reference. Last year's pole here, the fastest lap was actually the race lap turned by Michael Lewis in the Hyundai last year in the second race at a 54.6. So that would be a good target time here.
Which just shows how quick these TCR cars here, because we were just talking about 53.0 for Pumpelli's sensational pole. So these TCR cars, with the amount of downforce that they generate, you can see there the styling cues, hitching the undriven rear wheel there, front wheel drive cars, 2-liter turbos. But the main thing is the amount of aero that they have. They are really stacked and really planted through these corners here. I bet through the S's in one of these cars, it is a fun ride.
Oh my goodness. They say about 325 horsepower, but light.
Yes.
So the power to weight's good, as you said, tons of downforce.
Seems like they're creeping up a little bit. I thought they would control with power sticks at about 325, but talking to a few people this weekend saying that they may be creeping more towards the 340 range, so probably going to need to keep that in check. Whoa, 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 whoa. That was a big save. Big save right there.
You see there, it looked like something locked up. You can see a little puff of smoke as the...
Should we just clip that inside curb and just...
I wonder. That was interesting.
Get your attention.
Yeah. Especially when you're the points leader. watch it here, Cal.
Here. Does he get over that inside curb? Yeah, he does a little bit, I think, and that just
Yeah,
unsettled it.
Yep, exactly.
And right at the point you're trying to turn right, the car's wanting to go left.
Oh, this is not good. That's a couple of tech sport cars. 2 Subarus, the number 24. And Robert Crocker, the young man we were talking about with the appendix issue in one of the team cars. Is that the 91? That's Nick Whitmer. Oh, boy.
There was a target fixation.
I think
possibly.
you're absolutely right.
Just when you're coming up through those S's, everything has to be spot on, and if you just get distracted just a little bit by a car flying off the road, you can miss your mark. And looks like a rookie error, but it catch out the best drivers in the world if you're not careful.
Well, and it was Nick, I think, that it caught out, and I think Crocker was probably following Nick around. I mean, he's the points leader coming in here. Was as you said, target fixation. Really looks to me, Cal, if you get that inside curb a little bit too hard, especially in one of these cars, it really delays you being able to get to throttle, doesn't it?
It does, and you feel like if the car can ride that curb, it's the way to go. But you then have to anticipate and wait. You can't just commit quite as early. And it's such an important corner in terms of getting the traction off turn 12 Oak Tree corner on at that long back stretch.
This
sounds sweet,
doesn't it? Just crisp, those upshifts. This is where he had that moment a lot better this time. Gets that curve pretty good there, but feeds the throttle. 2027, previous best lap in this session, but way off of the 55. So let's see what he does here. And that's a 58.124. Second quick right now is the number 99 of Gonzalez. Gonzalez didn't get a time posted in the lone dry session yesterday. So he's got some work to do in that.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep moving the bar on this session.
Yes.
Expect these guys to get a lot quicker.
27, Christian Cole in the McCann Racing TCR Cup Audi Sport RS3 LMS there, the 27. And Britt Casey now, nice jump up into second in the 83 McCann Racing Audi. A lap at it, still a long ways off of fast times, let alone Hertz's time at a 2:03. But I think you're right. Everybody's really easing up on it here. Problem here.
Reset possibly. Yeah, I'd be surprised if we don't at least see some 156s here. Not sure if anyone's going to get close to Michael Lewis's lap of 154 last year, but
yeah,
I expect to see Paul a couple of seconds off the car.
I think that's
standard.
That car that's paused may have been the 780 of McNulty. As we go back now to watching Kristen Cole, third overall, but fastest in the TCR Cup class in the 27 McCann Audi.
Personal best first sector. Just halfway through the second sector now, so it looked like a good clean run through Oak Tree. But Casey Jr. has just laid down a very fast first sector, so he's on a flyer.
Oh yeah, fastest by about a half second, isn't it?
We're going to see some 56s here potentially.
Good lap
sector
by,
two as well.
Oh yeah, Casey is flying. Here comes Cole. Let's see. He improves his 2:03.1.
Well,
should handle it. Yeah.
Good clean lap.
Oh yeah. Well, Vincent slips one in. That jumps up into second. And Casey, there's a 156.4 for the 83 of Britt Casey.
There you go.
We're starting to get into the realm now. He had a 55.7 yesterday.
To be so precise and patient through this little section here. You can overdrive these corners very easily.
get away with it a bit on fresh tires, but in the race, it's really a very demanding sector in terms of just keeping it nice and clean.
Here's a look at Britt and the McCann Audi with that red stripe.
Seemed to be a bit off the boil there. The engine note wasn't peaking, so I think he's just cooling things off, seeing how everyone responds to his fast lap, and look for some clean air and give himself a chance of a late session flyer.
So it's Casey, then the two Liqui-Moly FCP Euro VWs of the 71 of Hertzen, the 72 of Vincent. Still Cole in the McCann Racing Audi, tops in TCR Cup at number 27. Gonzalez sits right there in 5th. As you said, for him, every lap he's turning his own. Brian Putt, points leader in the TCR Cup category, and the number 15 jumps from well down the order up into the 5th spot overall, 2nd in TCR Cup. Brian in the eEuroparts.com Row Racing Audi.
Britt goes back on the attack here.
McCann Jr., 3rd in TCR Cup right now, the number 3 entry. That is the number 3 of McCann.
Whitmer's got about a 1 second margin right now. Actually, now it's down to 3/10 for the TCA pole.
Nice lap by the 69 of Haldeman, who was second quick in that dry practice yesterday for X Factor in the Honda.
Honda is a turnkey race car, which is such great value. I think it's just over $50,000, and to go racing for that amount of money.
That's
for
value.
some fans out there, it might sound like a lot, but in racing terms, that is a bargain.
That's value. McCann now. The question was going to be whether he's going to get held up by the car in front as we go to Nate Vincent. Makes the move to slip around Sally McNulty in the number 780 TCA machine, and now Vincent clear track. Personal best.
Yeah.
Couple of sectors here.
Get close to his teammate, championship leader.
Down through the roller coaster and heading into Hog Pen.
It's going to be a good little battle between those two teammates this year.
That really is. And they both seem strong. That, you know, on a weekend they'll be very close, but at some tracks one of them's just got the handle, and another track the other one is, and that's what makes it fun and exciting here.
He's quicker, but still quite a margin away from his teammate and a big margin away from Casey's lap.
Here's a look at Casey as he sits in the pits. Has to be pretty pleased with his debut here in TC America TCR competition.
I wonder if he's just saving tires, because certainly based on his practice times yesterday, he had a faster lap in him. Looks on James Walker finishing off his lap, and he kind of has the mantra of he just gradually gets better each and every lap and each and every session as he learns VIR for the first time.
And that's sort of been his MO this year. I mean, we watched him at COTA, we watched him at St. Pete. You know, qualifying he'd be okay, and then in the race suddenly fast laps would pop up.
It's like, where did that come from? And it's one thing with the setup. Rick Mayo, obviously a longtime engineer with Risi Competizione, does a great job, and James is very technical and can give the feedback that he's looking for, and it seems like this Alfa has the ability to be really strong on the long green flag runs. It wouldn't surprise me to see him here pull out his best lap. Let's wait and see what this first sector shapes up like.
This is a brand new car as well. The damage to the other one just too significant after the incident at St. Pete to get it fixed here.
Not a great first sector.
No. It's a tasty little battle. That's the number 50 of Dina Weisberg in the Redcom
Just
Labs.
beat the stripes, so they can do another lap now. Just beat the flag out.
I think behind her is the number 10 of Jenny Gannett, that white Mazda MX-5 Global MX-5 Cup car.
You know, there's probably a little battle between the ladies. Not saying they can't take it to the guys as well, but you got Jenny and Sally.
Yep.
Dinah all there fighting it out in this TCA class this year.
Checker is out. There's the 91 of Whitmer, continues to hang on to the point in the TCA category at a 2:09.4. He's got a little bit of room now back to Haldeman. Nick was able to throw down a pretty quick lap.
Yeah, he pushed the margin out there. It's probably not in jeopardy of maintaining. He runs wide there, allows some traffic through.
That's teammate PJ Gronke. We say it many times. You see the, if you look at PJ's car, it is absolutely covered in sponsor decals. And
makes a little go a long way, right?
He certainly does. He certainly does. And I can understand it, because if you've ever spent time with PJ, I can imagine him walking into your company and saying, hey, I'm a racer. I'm just looking for $1,000 to help me get through. There's no way to say no to the guy.
Right.
He's just so nice. And then he parlays it into things like TCB category championships. And there's the 69 of Haldeman. Obviously is.
It's a nice qualifying run for him.
It was.
Really
Absolutely.
cool.
Pombo third, fastest in that dry practice yesterday. Backs that up with a top 3 qualifying effort in the mini JCW entry. Then the 74 of Tyler Maxon in the Copeland Motorsports Mazda Global MX-5 Cup entry. Rounding out the top 5 at TCA, the 77 of Taylor Hagler, also for X Factor in one of the Hondas. One of the big prizes everybody's sort of eyeing here in all of the categories of the SRO America, from Blancpain GT World Challenge right through to the touring cars, is the Cavanna Rum Cup. And right now, Nick Whitmer, he's got a real handle on it in the touring car ranks here. 3 poles, 2 wins.
Yeah, 5 sweeps, right?
5 sweeps, correct.
Bonus.
One of them has to be the finale,
right, in
Vegas. So, and that's going to be a real crapshoot, just because it's a track that hasn't been run for a long time.
5 sweeps,
have a lot of data
7 fast laps, and 7 poles. So he's well on his way.
Yes, he is. Here is a look at the 99 of Victor Gonzalez. Meanwhile, Britt Casey hops on board the McCann TCR machine, and Ryan puts it on pole.
Well, welcome to TC America, Britt Casey Jr. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the series and the fans at home. How about it? Were you surprised to have that kind of pace in your first outing with the team?
Yeah, you know, I have a lot of experience with the TCR cars in a different series, and I was really excited to join up in SRO America at the TCR stuff here. The McCann guys are on point with the knowledge that they bring to the table, and it was really plug and play. You know, I think they bring a really strong package with the crew guys, and we have it set up for sure. I think that's an understatement. You know, I think we got a good thing going here. Knock on wood, we can hold up in the race, and qualifying was good, so just on to the next part.
We saw you sitting in pit lane for a little bit after posting that lap. Were you just saving those tires to make sure you had some good Pirellis under you when we get to the race?
Yeah, it was more of a forward-thinking type of thing. You know, we were just really... This track is really tough on tires when the temperature is hot, so we decided, you know, let's get one early and then just evaluate what everyone else is doing for the rest of the session.
What does it say about this McCann team that you can show up and be right on pace right away?
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, I left Miami University. I'm a junior there Thursday morning, so I came over here after that. And, you know, we have help from Autobahn Country Club, Audi Genuine Parts as well. And it was, you know, from the start, it's like, let's go get one here. So we thought ahead, we did our work ahead of time, and now we're here at the track just doing exactly what we thought we were going to do.
Excellent lap. Congrats on the pole.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You know what, Cal? I think he made a good point. It's plug and play, and that's the entire concept of the FIA homologation from GT3 to GT4 to now through the TCR ranks. As we take a look at the provisional qualifying and the provisional grid coming up, that's the idea, is that these cars should be repeatable. You know, with the right setup, if you drive one here, you could drive one there, and if it's set up, it should feel very familiar.
And that's what really makes it attractive for drivers to jump between different championships, even globally, and be able to compete in very similar machinery and feel at home and be on pace immediately. So it's a great attraction to, started with the GT3 platform, moved to GT4, both under the SRO umbrella, and obviously TC Racing as well.
How about that? 2 poles for McCann Racing here. Rick Casey, the overall TCR pole, and Mike McCann Jr. himself.
That's big. His dad will be proud of that one.
You bet he will. His dad is making his first start in competition in this championship, or he was entered anyway to be able to come here.
I think Michael Jr. is actually going to be driving that car now.
Oh, is that right?
I saw Senior last night, and he said, yeah, I'm not ready to be out there racing. Need to be watching the boy.
All right, so that wraps up our coverage of TCR and TCA qualifying here from Virginia International Raceway, all part of this great SRO Motorsports America weekend at this glorious facility presented by Henry Repeating Arms. And lots to unfold yet as the day progresses through. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, but more to come, so don't go too far away.